June the 16th, 2021. As you're looking at the current information that's available from the National Hurricane Center, notice the Tropical Storm Bill has already pulled out of the picture, and there's not much chance of any development with the system that was coming off of Africa. It's still showing some rotation on the Atlantic satellite images, but there's a dust cloud or dust layer that's north of the storm that's pulling a lot of that in there. And we'll take a wide Atlantic look, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. But now, this has been a very strange situation. It's a 70% chance of formation now over 5 days. 70% chance, if you notice at the bottom of this, in the next 48 hours of development. The reason I say that it's strange is because it's been sitting here, guys. We saw rotation going just offshore in the last video. Then all of that moved ashore. That center of that section of the storm moved ashore. But when we look at the actual satellite images, you'll see what I'm talking about. There's a very broad area of low pressure that is encompassing the entire Gulf of Mexico. And I mentioned that, I think, in the last video, noticing all the streamers that were being pulled in from the clouds from all over the Gulf. The wind patterns and everything was pulling around and down towards the Bay of Campeche. Now, that broader area of low pressure, not where the X is, where that center of circulation, is in the storm that we've been watching. And really, it's very hard to see any center on the satellite images here. But it more or less came ashore and rotating around here, not doing much. But there's a tremendous amount of clouds being pushed into the open Gulf. And Florida's getting the benefit of a lot of rain. I mentioned this about a week or so ago, that no matter where the storm went, it was going to produce a lot of moisture associated with it. And the upper level wind patterns were going to strip that and push it over towards Florida. And that's what we're seeing. But again, we're 70% chance of 48-hour development, 90% in 5 days because of the way the system is set up. But again, if you just looked at it and you weren't really paying attention, you would say it just doesn't look like there's much there. But I want to show you something. Let's read this. As of 8 a.m. Eastern Time this morning, disorganized showers and thunderstorms continue over the Bay of Campeche in the southern Mexico in association with broad low pressure area. Notice that. That's the key words. Broad low pressure area. This system will move little today and tonight, and little, if any, development is expected during that time due to the interaction with land. Now, they're talking about where the X is. Now, it says, however, the broad disturbance, not where the X is, the broad disturbance should begin to move northward on Thursday. That's tomorrow. And the tropical depression is likely to form by late Thursday or on Friday when the low moves across the western Gulf of Mexico. Regardless of development, heavy rainfall will continue over portions of Central America, southern Mexico during the next several days. Heavy rain should also begin to affect portions of the northern Gulf Coast on Friday. So we'll look at the models. Louisiana looks like you are still in the gun somewhere between Louisiana, maybe back to Houston. We'll look at the models, but that's going to change. Again, this broader area of low pressure is getting very interesting to me, and they're starting to notice it also. Now, this is the current imaging from the satellites over the Gulf itself. What you're seeing is right in here is where they're saying kind of on land and offshore, that red X that they're talking about. Then they keep mentioning the broader area of low pressure. And guys, that's here. I talked about it, I think, in the last video or so, with all of this wind motion being pulled into the center of the low pressure itself, the broader area they're talking about. So as you look at up north along the Mississippi River in the top center of this, you can see we're getting the opposite wind pattern. It's going to be a little cooler and drier, and that boundary is moving just inland across Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. That's where these two systems are meeting and squeezing a little moisture out along the Florida Panhandle and they always do that. But it's just like a tornado. You get opposing winds, north and south. It's a good way to start rotation, and that's what we're looking at. So it would be a good thing just to keep an eye on the entire western Gulf itself right now. Now, this is a very interesting spaghetti model that we got coming in just 4 minutes ago at 11 a.m. Eastern. And it hasn't changed much throughout the day. And there's some very significant models missing. Canadian model, the Navy model, and a few others. I think they're kind of watching the same thing that the National Hurricane Center is watching, and we're watching, is that broader area of low pressure, but they just hadn't thrown their cards on the table yet. Got one model going up through Mexico into Texas here. That could, if that happened, it would, of course, impede much development, but it could bring some maybe much needed rain to that area. The only other models that are getting involved have the storm going up, cutting across the lower Mississippi River, coming in just south of Mobile Bay, from that line, and then one coming down through Tampa. But the major models are kind of, again, they haven't put their cards on the table, as I said, and that's why this is a very interesting storm. Now, this is the Navy model. Remember, they haven't put the cards on the table with the spaghetti model yet, right? So they may be a little hesitant in forming this model, or they're waiting to see what happens through the heat of today. I can't really blame them. But what they're showing is the system forming and coming in like it was when it first started in the predictions, from central Texas up to the Galveston area. Of course, anything in that area, you can tell just by the size of that low pressure area, will also be all the way towards the Louisiana border there, and come up through North Mississippi and move out towards the East Coast. That's the Navy model. And looking at the Canadian model, guys, they also have not committed on the spaghetti model, and this one does not look like an updated model from, say, 11 o'clock, maybe early this morning. But they're showing the storm struggling to form, moving up through the Gulf, finally coming ashore. Watch it right here, coming up the 18th, 19th, right in there, Texas-Louisiana border, but maintaining enough low pressure to reform over the Atlantic after it emerges somewhere around North Carolina, or slightly north of there. We'll let it go back through again. But here's it starting to form. High pressure to your right, coming ashore around the 18th, 19th. We'll see when that'll tighten up some, and then moving out over the East Coast. But what's going to be interesting is to see the Navy and Canadian model, who always are the most reliable, in my opinion, when they get really serious about putting their cards on the table and making the spaghetti models and updating these models, because that is a very large area of low pressure. It is affecting the entire Gulf, including the northern Caribbean. So we're watching it, guys. That's what we have right now. I'll update you when we start seeing some movement on the storm. It shouldn't take more than maybe 12 hours or so, but I'll keep you updated. It's a heads up. Be safe. Also, subscribe for updates below. Thanks.